Welcome to the Cabin Culture Podcast, where we spend a little more time diving deeper into all the fun parts of cabin culture. I like to think of this as both the material and imagined expressions of how cabin lovers, dwellers, builders, and designers wish to live a more simple and authentic life. Today, I'm talking to Chase, who in just 5 years has gone from buying his first cabin in Running Springs, California, to owning 8 properties across multiple states, all while maintaining a full-time career as a loan officer and raising a family. What started as a weekend retreat they could barely use because it kept getting booked has evolved into a sophisticated development and investment strategy that includes land hacking, private money raising, and even flipping Teslas to fund cabin purchases. From adding patina to brand new renovations with personal record collections to creating secret amenities that delight guests through treasure hunts, Chase has mastered both the emotional and financial sides of the cabin business. We'll explore his 3-role framework of visionary, manager, and technician, why he believes cabins should be about intentional experiences rather than just convenience, and how strategic placement in established markets has allowed him to scale without heavy marketing investments. Whether you're dreaming of your first cabin or wondering how to grow beyond your current portfolio, this conversation offers insights into the systems, partnerships, and mindset shifts that enable rapid growth while maintaining the magic that makes cabins special. Plus, we dive into unconventional marketing tactics, from color contrast theory and Airbnb photos to maximizing SEO across multiple booking platforms. Let's do it. Okay, let's dive in. Okay, so I'm talking to you from California, but you have properties all over the place. I want to start a little bit from the beginning, but I don't want to spend too much time there because you have grown really quickly, and I definitely want to dig into that growth trajectory. But you kind of started like most of the people that I know in the cabin world, which is with one
Mhm,
cabin and this idea of like, well, we can use it and maybe we can rent it, but really we're going to do it the way that we want it. But Chase,
yes.
you really quickly went from one, that was in 2020 around COVID, if I'm correct, to now in 2025, you have 8 different properties. Is
Yes,
that true? Did I get that number right?
yes, mostly yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I guess if we just call rental properties, then yes, for sure.
Okay.
Um, did you wanna just start with just the investment rental journey, or did you wanna start with also, like, our primary or just
Well, that's
anything
up
that
to
the
you. I mean,
general?
I obviously the reason we find most folks is because of their cabin. So, was Lightfoot your
Mhm.
first cabin? Is that true?
Yes, it was,
Yeah. And so
It
that
was
one
our first cabin.
you didn't buy it primarily, it's my understanding from the research I did, you didn't buy it primarily as an investment property, it was a cabin that you all could use, "Oh, and we're gonna rent it too," correct? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
that
so
is correct, yeah.
when did that change for you and you're like, "Oh," like, was it right away? You're like, "Oh, we're making good money off of this. This is clearly something more than just a weekend place for us?"
Yeah, because we wanted to use it, but it kept getting booked. So
Yeah.
I was like, "Come on." I mean, we really wanted to use it, but I was like, "This could be is this something? This be something?" And then my wife always dreamed of not having to work, and I was like, "Do you think that
Mm,
I could not work?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Do you want to try?" I was like, "Sure, let's see how far we can go with it. And even if it only lasts for a year, now you have an extra year of not working and maybe for us to build the family. So maybe,
yeah.
maybe when we have our first baby, instead of only being with the baby 5 to 6 weeks, like most moms, because they have to go back to work, maybe
Yep.
you could just have a year and that could be our beautiful story,
Yeah.
but it went from 5 weeks to a year. And then now she hasn't been back, so we just manage all the properties full time now.
Now that was at a time when a lot of people were doing the same thing that you were doing. And you bought
Mhm.
a place in a fairly, you know the market better than me, so please correct me, but in a fairly popular vacation rental spot. What was it about Lightfoot that made it take off so quickly?
You know, I think it was a balance of luck. Uh, you know, I honestly thought that God was watching over us, and it was because, okay, so it December of 2020, every single weekend from December 2020 to about March of 2021, um, we went every weekend to Big Bear and to Fawnskin, Sugarloaf, even Lake Arrowhead, everywhere. Um, and I was so stuck up on I need to be in Big Bear because that's what people are going to search for, you know? And
Oh,
so,
interesting.
yes, yes. And then so, but one day we found this house and then it went under contract. And I was like, oh man, that was a really good house. And then we found a different house in Big Bear, Sugarloaf area. It was an A-frame and we were going hard at it. And I was like, man, I don't know if this is the right thing because literally the sellers were dictating everything. They're like making
Yeah.
us pay for closing costs, making us pay for their title fees. I was like, this doesn't sound right. I was
Yeah.
like, EMD becomes like non-refundable after 3 hours or something crazy, some crazy terms, right? And I was like, this is not right. So we just backed out. And
Yeah.
then we just said, let's take a break. And then while we were taking a break, this Running Springs house came back on market. And so once it came back on market, then I
This
was
was the
thinking,
first one, the original.
yeah, this is Lightfoot, So we were thinking, I'm trying to look at time frames. Oh yeah. So around mid-March, it came back on market because it fell out of escrow. So we said, oh man, we got to go check it out now because it won't let us make an offer unless we go see it. So we drove there
Oh, that's
immediately.
interesting. For an investment property?
Yeah. Yeah. Because they don't want it sight unseen because
Yeah.
it was a primary home for them. They don't want to get under contract again and to have to back out. So I was like, I understand. We'll go there
Yeah.
right now. So we went there, but it was snowing. And then when it
Mm,
was snowing, it covered all the paint that they had. And it just had the image of what I wanted. And I was like, this is it. This is what we want. And, it's got to have our vibes, which is,
mhm,
black cabin, cedar deck, cedar
mhm.
accents. And that was it. And then we went all in. I mean, we probably spent way too much on renovations, but it was our second home at the time. So we didn't really care. So,
Well, and my original question was, why do you think it did so well? And I honestly think that might be part of it. I feel like some that do really well from the jump are the ones where owners are like, I'm not thinking about profit right now. I'm thinking
uh-huh.
about how to make this cabin as badass as it can possibly be. And when
Mhm.
you put that kind of love and energy into it, other people can feel that.
I think so. I mean, it was we put a lot of our own stuff in there, like it was our record collection in there.
Yeah.
So, it was everything that we've ever collected while we were traveling because we would buy a record whenever we go to a new city to kind of almost like a commemorate that city and then bring it
Mhm.
back.
Yes,
And
I love that.
because whenever you renovate a house, everything almost feels brand new.
Yep.
And then whenever it feels brand new, it feels so cold.
Mhm.
You
And not lived in.
And yeah, so that's what I called at the time. So what I coined the phrase now is I need to add patina to the home, but not really
Mm.
like destroy it. But like that is
Right.
a way for me to add patina to the home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially right
Yeah.
now with all of the, like, new builds and people buying the same plans. It's like that
Hmm.
totally works and is a way for people to do it. I made my cabin out of plans that I bought online, but then
Okay.
figuring out what is the touch that I'm gonna put on it. And it is different, Chase, between your first cabin and then you've now created a portfolio of cabins, and so you have to think about that with all of them, not only what makes each one unique, but also what brings them together. Or do you not think about that as much because they're geographically pretty diverse? Do you not think about branding them under one name because they're kind of all over? People might not go to all of them.
That's a great question because that's something that we've struggled with, honestly. We so I'm a former civil engineer and I'm a loan officer, so numbers are really big for
Yeah.
me. And, you know, sometimes the data drives so much in your head that you just make decisions based off of that. We never thought about branding as much. We thought that Lightfoot was going to be it,
Uh-huh.
and I thought it was going to end there. And it just, I don't know, the deals just kept happening. So we didn't
Okay,
think
but I have a
about
question
branding
about
at the
that.
time.
I wanna come
Go
back to
ahead.
that next.
Yeah, we just
But
didn't know, like, what we would do for branding, like, we
yeah.
didn't think about it that far. My dream was I have my primary home, I have my old house was a long-term rental, and then I have my vacation home that I occasionally rent. I mean, what
Yeah.
more would people would want? I mean, that seems like the dream, right? And
That is
then it
exactly
just
how I
started
started.
it started snowballing, and I was like, what are we doing? I don't know. But by the time we could think, or like, oh, should we brand? I'm like, I don't know. We have a bunch of other projects. Is that something to think about now or
Right.
later? So I don't know.
Will that be the crucial lever right now? I'm not convinced that it would be. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge person on branding, but I've also talked to a lot of cabin owners who do it really well and swear that that's a
Hmm.
big part of their success. So I
Yes.
can't speak to that one. I'm always just curious how people think about it. I want to go back to the snowball chase because
Yeah.
I just haven't I've not done as many properties as you, but I've done a couple and I
Hmm.
find that exhausting, especially at 40. And so I find it
Hmm.
hard to imagine. In fact, right now I'm selling a cabin and we're looking at 1031s and I'm just like fried, right?
I
I
saw
am
it. Yeah.
struggling to figure out how that can feel like a snowball where it just kind of happens because it takes so much work. So how did it go from 1 to 8 so quickly?
I'm crazy, maybe. My wife is very supportive.
Are you the driver and she's along for the ride?
She is the manager. She
Okay.
approves it before whether we go. I'm
Okay.
the visionary.
Okay.
So we always thought that there has to be, the three positions that we have to fill, that we may each fill at different times, which is the technician, the manager, and the visionary. You
Oh,
can't
I
have
like
a
this.
Yeah, you can't be successful without all three.
Yeah.
You can survive with just two out of the three, but not for long. And
Oh, this is
maybe
so
we're
good.
surviving with two of the three. Anyway, let me describe those really quick because
Yes,
I
please.
love them. So the visionary cannot do what the other can. Same with the others. One cannot do what the others can't. Visionary is the one who projects into the future and has the dreams, has the fearlessness to want to make it happen, um, the ideas, the creativity. Then you have the manager who makes sure that it gets everything done, but they don't have the visionary. They don't have the future aspect. They're here in the now. They want to
Yeah.
make sure that everything is executed properly.
Yeah.
So, and then you have the technician, which is the person that executes on the plan, because the manager makes sure that it's done, but they may not necessarily know how to do it.
Got it.
Meaning, I want to build this plumbing empire, but you don't have anyone to create systems to be able to
Yep.
make sure everyone gets the plumbing services,
Yeah.
and then you need an expert plumber,
Yeah. Okay, so it
right?
sounds to me like you could potentially live without the technician because that would be the easiest to outsource. And these days, it might be possible to outsource the manager in some ways because we have really good property managers in some places.
Mhm.
But the visionary, there's no way you can outsource it. And ideally, if you're keeping the manager and the visionary in-house, that seems like best case, right? Is there a recipe for success between those 3 that you've come up with?
I don't know. I've always have seen that you need all three in some capacity, whether you're not doing it to the most optimized way or not. You
Yeah.
need some capacity of it, because it's hard to say in short-term rentals what is the technician, right? Because the technician for short-term rentals could be, there's so many aspects. There's the
Mhm.
creativity of the photography, the marketing aspect. There's
Mm,
the actual operations of it, right? Like, you could be a technician in the way that you put together your owner's closet. I always say that one of our superpowers is our owner's closet is on point. So then
yeah.
our systems piggyback and everything runs smooth behind that, Um,
Okay, can I ask a
and
question
it's
about
like,
that?
go ahead. Mhm.
Because that's a really good insight, I think, and I've never heard someone say that, but you have 8 properties, and this is where I always have questions, which
Mhm.
is like, did you design the owner's closet in the first one as you went? You're like, "We have got this down to a science. Heck yeah." And then did you personally create every owner's closet in all 8? Or do you have pictures and like a book to the first one, and when you onboarded a cleaner for the other 7, you were like, "Here is how we do owner's closets. You need to do it this way."
Yeah, I think we've only successfully have done it in half of them, honestly. It's
Okay.
it's an ongoing process that we found. We know what we want, but we haven't, because each property is different. If just buy it, there's no right way. As long as it has the components, I think you can kind of work around it. Um, but we took everything from Lightfoot and what we've learned from that and applied it to, so like for
Yeah.
example, our Branson one is running super smooth. We almost don't have to do anything with, especially with owner's closet. They take inventory and we send it, and everything has a place, everything is labeled. But again, the owner's closet is in a convenient place, it's
Yeah.
big,
Yeah.
and it has its own door. One tip that everyone could probably do with those owner's closet, no matter what the size is, we have a smart lock doorknob on the owner's closet. Why? Because um, if a guest is like, "Oh, I need extra toilet paper," and before in the past, I would have to send my cleaner and they have to charge me a little bit, and I would feel bad if they don't charge me
Yeah.
because they're taking time out of the day to go
Right.
and do that and be protected. And then I thought, as long as I keep everything in owner's closet, not so much in value, then if they do steal something, they signed a rental agreement. I mean, I registered them for that owner's closet temporary opening. They know that they would be the ones liable. There's
That's
nobody
the
else
biggest
entering that
thing. It's
owner's
like they
closet.
know. With a smart lock, they know that there's a record of who went in there.
That's why
Right.
I thought it was worth it for the smart lock. So I can remotely open it. I give them a one-time temporary code, for them to open it one time. And if I know that things went missing after the temporary code, we know it was you. So,
Right.
um, and why would you do that? I'm being very generous. We just get,
Right.
I always
Right.
say, just take as much as you need. It's no problem. Take
Right.
two, three, four toilet paper, and it gives them such a great experience, right? That
That's right.
everything has a solution behind it.
Right.
So that's the
My
whole
first
owner's closet
cleaner
thing.
at my first cabin was this older couple who'd been cleaning cabins in Boone forever, and I just had all the toilet paper out in the bathrooms, and I remember they told me, they were like, "Oh, you don't," and granted, I was, like, 29 at the time, so they just looked down at me like, "How are you running this?" And they were like, "Oh, you can't leave all the toilet paper out there. People will steal it. You need to lock it up." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I locked it up, and then I realized, like, no, I would rather you steal my toilet paper, which is not that expensive, and have enough than feel like we're cheaping out on toilet paper. And I've never had anyone empty out our toilet paper ever. And that
Yeah.
fear of like scarcity versus assuming the best of guests, I feel like they can pick up on that.
But also too, at least for our system, we have them sign a rental agreement, there's a security deposit, and then what we offer is usually a higher average daily rate. You're usually filtering out the riffraff after all those things. I mean, at that point, if you're spending thousands of dollars on a stay, are you really going to steal toilet paper? And if you do, will it really matter at that point?
Right. Will it
Are
really
they
matter?
gonna ransack my whole owner's closet? At that point, okay, I'll say something, but 2, 3 extra toilet paper, let's just move on, you know?
That's right. I would rather you have that. I would rather you
Yeah,
have that. Especially who knows what's going on? If someone has an emergency that requires that much toilet paper,
that's right.
I
Or
would
paper
like for you to
towel,
have
yeah,
it. Yeah, I want
yeah,
you to have that should you need it.
exactly. So I don't think that that's that big a deal, so
Okay. I'm gonna ask, this is a question that I struggle with a lot, which is you have 8 and I spent a while looking at all 8 of them. So I feel like this is a tough question. Do you have a favorite? I have a favorite of yours just from online.
we're stuck between 2, and then the 3rd is my son's favorite only because it has the most games, but
Fair.
we're back and forth between Lightfoot Cabin and Skyline A-Frame because Lightfoot Cabin is obviously our first, it's our
Yeah.
baby, but Skyline A-Frame is the one that was in our minds and hearts forever that we
It's the one
wanted
you
to
built,
put.
right?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
first one we built. And
Yeah.
this is what people don't know is the journey to get there was because ever since we bought Lightfoot, which is 2021, we've always dreamed of, oh, I wish we could have an A-frame, you know? And so
Yeah.
from then till 2024, 3 years in the making, we made probably 8 offers in like 4 different markets and kept losing for some reason. And I know that that's why, building it was so much more special. And I feel like that one to us is the culmination of everything that we've learned into one property,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Why? I guess I'm curious because my second one was a build because after my first one, I was like, okay, I know what I'd want to create. And
wow.
I can imagine waiting until 8, you have a lot more insight, but why did you wait so long? If you wanted an A-frame for that long, rather than buying the other ones, why didn't you build it right away?
I don't know, honestly. I didn't think that it was possible. I didn't know how to build, weirdly
Yeah,
enough.
yeah,
I thought it was too complicated. And at the time, I was just how can I scale? How can I scale? And
Yeah.
so we bought immediately after, and we could go into the story now, is after Lightfoot, we had renovated it and the value went up. So we took a HELOC out of that, and then we used that to buy in Joshua Tree because that was kind of the thing. So
Yeah.
we bought in 29 Palms. It was a turnkey Airbnb property. I was like, this is going to be amazing. We got it for a great deal. But then right after that, I just, once we were operating there, it was great. But what we noticed was, man, there is a lot of competition out here, like
Yeah.
really nice houses. And I don't know if we could keep up with them. So maybe we go somewhere else that is, now looking back at it, was also very competitive. But why don't we do it in another market where it's established? There's a lot of visitors, another national park, which was the Smoky Mountain National Park.
Yeah.
So we
Out in my
went,
neck of the woods.
yeah, we sold that and we 1031 to the Smokies. And that has been really good. But obviously, it's been really difficult because we bought at the top of the market
Yeah.
and there's a lot of competition now with
Yeah.
new builds and all that. And I didn't understand that at the time,
Yeah.
but in the excitement of it all, we had bought two cabins in that time frame. So we 1031 into one. And here's my really cool story that a friend of mine really likes, Tony. So I had, at the time, we were like feeling ourselves and like I really wanted a Tesla, but my wife was like, I don't think you should do it. I don't think you should buy it. I mean, you're just, I don't think it's a good idea. I'm like, okay, well, I pre-ordered all of them, like the Y, the X, and the S,
All at the same time? No, because they
all
each
at the
came out
same
at
time.
different all at the same time.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it was only like $100 to leave
To
a deposit
pre-order.
to pre-order
I
it.
know nothing about Tesla, so this is gonna be a learning experience for me.
So Model S is the sedan, their flagship, really nice looking one. So I'm like, okay, well, let me pre-order it. It locks in the price. It's at a low price. So we bought it, we pre-ordered, and we didn't realize that like a month or two later, the prices jumped up like crazy because the chip shortage.
You flipped Teslas?
So I flipped that Tesla and I used the down payment, that money, and bought our cabin with it.
I love that.
It was a once in a lifetime opportunity,
Right, that's not
honestly.
gonna
Like,
happen again, yeah.
no, but I was like, I told my wife, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I
Yeah.
literally have to take delivery, and someone right here is wanting to buy it for this crazy number.
What was the
I'm just
increase?
gonna
Can
do
you
it.
share that? You
Yeah, it
don't
was
have to,
107,000 is
is
the
what you sold them
sale.
for?
Yeah, and then I bought it for 79,000.
So you made, like, 30K almost off of each of
Yeah,
these. So
yeah.
90K is a deposit on another cabin,
Well,
down
well,
payment.
on one of them, I didn't make as much, so but about
Wow.
60 to 70K, yeah, so I was like, "Well, I should just take this opportunity now," you know?
This reminds me of Devin from the Pacific Bin, do you know him?
Mhm.
Yeah, his money for the first one came from he bought Tesla stock really early and then sold
Oh.
it when he grew, and that's how he got the money for I think it was, like, the initial money for the Pacific Bin.
Oh, the Pacific Bin, and
Yeah.
the next one, the Hollow,
Yeah, yeah,
Cedar
yeah. I'm
Hollow.
sure the hollow came from money from the
I'm sure.
Pacific Bin, but I think that was, like, how it was through Tesla was how he made
That's
some of his
funny.
initial money too, yeah.
Yeah, it was just a unique time, so I just thought, "Oh, we should just try it," and then, I mean, we were able to get that cabin, and then eventually, that's how we scaled that quickly. That's in the 2022, but, um, at the same time, I think we had, oh, at that time, then we wanted to sell our long-term rental, which was our very first property that we purchased
Mhm.
here in SoCal. So we sold that, and I took some of that money and we bought in Kentucky, only because my realtor said that she's going over there, a place called Shelbyville, and she said the Bourbon Trail is really good. And initially, we are just going to follow her, but then when I looked at the market, it was too small of a market for me. I was like, oh, this is too far out of the main city, maybe. And that's the mistake that we made on the Smokies cabins. Our first one was in Gatlinburg. Our second one was in Sevierville. So it was like adjacent to
Yep.
adjacent to. So I was like, we want to be in the heart of the action. So I said, okay, let's go find someone in Louisville, Kentucky. And so that one is actually one of our best investments that we've done.
'Cause this
Yeah.
is the challenge that I think a lot of people face, which is and you've kind of mentioned both sides of it, is that you want to be in a popular place where you don't have to drive traffic to that place. People are already Googling Louisville, Kentucky, right? And they're actively looking for places to stay in Louisville. And that's a huge advantage in terms of how much time and energy and money you have to put into marketing. At the same time, those markets become more saturated more quickly. And in 2020, when people were investing, I think it changed in those markets really rapidly. So I
It did.
feel like I mean, that's a tension and you're seeing that across 8 properties. But what I hear you saying is if that's your best property, then it's still smart to buy into a place where people are already coming. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So what we've realized is, first of all, it's very hard for me to speak to someone that is not in real estate because they think I'm crazy. That they're like, "Hey, what did you do today?" If I told you, you would not believe what I have done today because it's so crazy. But anyway, the Louisville, Kentucky was a great deal, and I'll try to fast forward through it. So we bought in Louisville a single family home, but the reason why we liked this particular house was it was an oversized lot. And, the initial thought was, "Oh, let's split the lot and let's sell the lot by itself. And now we're in this deal, no money out of pocket. This will be
Yeah.
amazing. This will be a no money deal. It'll be, to the moon." And then we started thinking, well, why don't we try to build on that thing? Is that something that we can do? Again, I was a former engineer. I was like, maybe now we can try to build something." And then so we thought, okay, let's connect with a surveyor, an architect. And then they all said it was possible. And at the same time, I had to learn about partial releases. So once you first buy it, if you want to split, you have to do a partial release on the mortgage. So we had to wait a year, do the partial release, make sure that once they split it, the value is still there. So that was all approved. And then we got the lot split done. And then I got connected with a builder. He said, we can build a duplex. I'm like, okay. Then I got connected with a construction lender. He said that we could 100% fund that based off of the value of the land. Perfect. 100% construction loan. Now we built a duplex. Now we have 3 units instead of just a one. And then now what we did was we sold the single family that was the oversized lot. We kept the duplex and we bought another property, single family home with also an oversized lot. And now we're doing it again. We're doing
Yeah.
a split and building. And then now that's just in Louisville, that's our business plan now. We
Yeah.
just buy oversized lots or land hack, I guess.
Yeah.
And that just keeps recycling that same money, but adding to our portfolio.
Yeah. If you're dreaming about a cabin build, or are in the midst of a build, or you just bought a place and are getting ready to host for the very first time, regardless of where you are, sometimes you just need a little help along the way. Shared experiences from someone who's been there, advice from someone who's learned a lot of lessons the hard way. That's me. Or a cheerleader as you finish up. All of these reasons are exactly why I started offering cabin consultations to our Instagram followers and friends who could use some specific one-on-one help. I can't promise to solve all your problems, but I can promise to be transparent about our build costs and process, our organization and project management systems, our favorite and least favorite tools for renting, how we market, and how we found ourselves with almost 80,000 Instagram followers and 100% occupancy in our first year of hosting at Cozy Rock. So if that sounds like it might help you, feel free to visit us at staycozycabin.com or on Instagram at Cozy Rock Cabin and sign up for a time to chat there. Let me ask you a question, because I think a lot of the messages we get from the short-term rental world on Instagram, social media is always like, okay, here's the next trick to take money from this house and build the next one and grow, grow, grow. And
Mm.
financially, that is really appealing. But I feel like nobody's talking about the really hard side of this, whether it's like the energy that it takes or um, just like how do you maintain quality over so many properties or the impact on communities? Like, what is the hardest part for you about growing as quickly as you have? Like, just the honest, raw part of it. Like, what has been challenging for you in this kind of growth?
I think it's the strain on the family for sure.
Yeah.
Whenever we go, because we do a physical inspection of the properties at least twice a year. So we take the whole family and we go. We stay there. We check all the owners' closets. We do maintenance. and check up on the projects. And it's been hard on them to find consistency
Yeah.
and, you know, and also using all of our own cash. That's what we didn't learn at the time. We're investing everything we've earned as a loan officer, as my wife, as a optometrist previously. We used all of our cash. And then so I learned from other investors that, most businesses, they can use cash, but they get an SBA loan or they raise money from partners, so you don't have to take it all on your shoulders all the time. So, even though we were cash flowing well from the cabins, every single cent was going right back into the new projects,
Right.
which was, we weren't taking care of ourselves,
Right. Then you're not seeing the benefit. You're feeling all of the output of energy and money, but you're not seeing necessarily the freedom that it allows you if you're bogged
Mhm.
down in it. What was the turning point on that? Did you take on an investor? Did you start getting different loans?
Mhm.
Where have you found that turning point yet?
The thing that told us was we don't have to keep every single property we acquire.
Mm,
It's okay for us to sell, because I had this like dream of like, I gotta own 10 properties at some point, like
mhm.
by the
Like that
time,
was success.
I guess now it just doesn't even like, I don't care anymore about that because once you unlock, investors and partners, I feel like 10 is so small.
Yeah.
10 is super small
And yet
because
it feels so big to a lot of people listening to this podcast who
yes,
have 1 or 2
yes,
cabins. 10
yes.
feels like, "Oh, I don't know if we'll ever do that, nor do I necessarily want to." But you're right, in the
Right.
investor world, 10 is like little.
10 is little. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what I've realized is we did a test in 2023. I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's can we do a private money deal? Will someone give us money? I'm like, I don't know. Like, let's put it out on social media or whatever.
To friends and family? Is that where
Yeah,
you
to friends
started?
and family.
Yeah.
To friends and family. And then, a couple of friends said, hey, I'll invest with you. We love your brand. I'm like, really? Okay. I don't know. I didn't really know how to negotiate the terms of the private money. So it wasn't the best deals, but it got us started and it wasn't so big that it was going to break us,
Yeah. Can I ask a question
So
about that?
yeah.
I feel like there's 2 sides of that. One is exciting and one is scary. One is like, don't ever mix money and friendship. And
Mhm,
for me, I feel like that would introduce a bunch of anxiety of like, oh my God, I have to be successful because I care about these people. But the second side of that is if and when you're successful, you get to bring people you care about along with you and you're sharing that success with your community. Did you
mhm.
feel either of those?
Definitely. For
Yeah.
sure. And that's why I wanted to make sure that that number wasn't so big that we couldn't overcome it. It wasn't going to break us financially. We could sell a house, we could sell something, and we could find a way to pay for it. So that
Yeah.
first loan was about 25,000.
Okay.
So again, that's not something crazy. And we probably had that money already, but we thought, okay, we need a way to start this off. And that's how we started with purchasing land. I needed, I raised private money as a down payment. And then I asked the seller to do a seller carry. So I purchased land with no money out of pocket. And
Okay.
then we got a construction loan and we built on it. And then once we built it, we were able to pay off the seller and we're almost done paying off the private money. So that
Okay.
house is now completely ours with money out of pocket for sure because we had to still pay for some repairs and
Right.
upgrades and furniture, but I mean it was a lot less than us having to come in with that cash, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we definitely had both sides, but I think setting the expectation from the beginning that hey, based off of our track record and based off of this statistic and this deal, we feel like even if we failed, we could sell the land and pay you back and we'll take the loss on whatever is the remainder. But I really feel like this is going to take off, you
Yeah,
know?
which eases
Uh,
some of that anxiety, and it's
mhm.
more like, I'm driving towards this world which we can benefit you and ourselves, and it's win-win.
Right. Welcome to the Skyline A-frame. That's the one that we built from
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And so
okay.
that partner was very happy. And
One of your
maybe I'm glad
favorites.
and I'm glad that maybe we didn't take on a equity partner at that point because we still own it 100%.
Yeah, Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then when you get to this size of like 8 cabins, then there's the reality of operating it, which we've talked a little bit about, but also occupancy of just filling the calendar throughout the year, and
Mhm.
marketing 8 feels like a big ask. So when you thought about growing to that number, were you thinking strategically about marketing, or was location placement actually your marketing answer? If we go to some place like Louisville, we won't need to market much because people are already coming. What do you do for marketing and or PR? Because I know you've been featured on Condé Nast. So I'm just curious, like, how you've thought about the PR marketing side of them.
Um, you know, because of each location, that was the reason why we chose each spot. That it was the location was a big deal, and then obviously having professional photography, optimizing your listing and all of that, and then having the amenities that you need. So Skyline, it is about 20 minutes to Branson, which is what everyone visits all the time. There's also a new Thunder Ridge Arena there, and that's where a lot of really big artists go. And it's a panoramic lake view.
Yeah, it's
There's
beautiful.
rolling hills. It's an A-frame that's a category on Airbnb at the time.
Yeah.
It has its own private swimming pool that's like made out of a container. It has a hot tub. It's got great design. So we just wanted to go. It was black with
Yeah.
cedar deck. I mean, it's kind of like our
Your
brand.
brand. Yep.
And so we knew that it would do well. I just didn't know it would do this well.
Yeah.
So
Is that your
we kind
highest
of wanted
performing
to
cabin?
replicate it. Yes, that or Lightfoot, they kinda go back and forth.
Okay. The two favorites. I'm now beginning to see why they might be your favorites.
From a cash flow perspective, yes,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you, the Louisville one performed above its weight class, and
I love that.
it's the only one that produced a duplex out of nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't I mean, we literally built it from nothing, and it was just there. I was like, "I didn't pay any money for that," you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I got a construction loan, but I mean, from a return perspective, I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah. So what
Yeah,
I'm
that one
hearing you
property got
say.
me, like, 3 other properties.
Right. So in terms of like overall investments, that was a really good investment. In terms of like
Yeah.
monthly earnings, maybe the other two are
Mhm.
the best ones.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is that outside of like having some like good photographers and influencers come, you don't do a lot of intentional, like you haven't needed to do a lot of intentional marketing.
I haven't. I mean, with Lightfoot, I think at the time, because it was our, flagship, we didn't think we needed to brand anywhere else on this side. On all the other properties, they were just great investment properties to give us cash flow.
Yeah.
We went pretty hard on trying to get PR for Lightfoot because it had something so special. Um, have you seen all the videos on it already or no?
Yeah, I've watched some of them, like the Levi Kelly one, and then you
Okay,
were
so you
featured
have
on
seen Levi
Dwell and
Kelly.
like yeah.
Yeah. Because then Levi Kelly is the first person that we revealed our secret to.
I know. And I have a question for you about the secret amenity.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Because in my research, I did listen to a past podcast episode that you did,
Yeah.
and they asked for a piece of advice that you had, and the biggest piece of advice you gave folks in thinking about their listing was to share their best 5 photos amenities right up front. So, like, don't
Oh,
you I think you
man.
literally said the words, "Don't bury them,
I
show them right
swear,
up front."
I'm gonna get hate now. And then your best property, you buried it.
Yes,
Like,
and so
literally.
as you were talking about your secret amenity, which you can share if you want to, but let's
Yeah.
just for folks listening, there is a secret amenity to delight guests, which I love because I love Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidera, and I feel like he would love this
Mm.
idea of a secret amenity that greets you that you didn't know, but it goes against your advice because you've hidden it and it's not letting people know that they can find that there.
I guess let me say that with context.
Okay.
If you are not performing well, then maybe putting your best 5 is the best thing for you to get
Okay.
your performance up right away. If you are doing great and if you're designing something from the ground up and you already have, great design, everything else is on point and you want to hide something as something special, then you could do that. I would
Yeah.
say that's the difference. And also, we thought, at least we had the confidence at the time when we were building it, that our design and our location and everything we had to offer was already really special. And so we thought, and also at the time we didn't care because it was just our second home, you know?
Right.
It was almost like everyone we invited were friends, and this
Yeah.
is just for our friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then
So it
everyone
didn't matter.
became our friends, which is really cool.
I love that about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you game for doing a little activity with me?
Go ahead. Let's do
Okay.
it.
I'm gonna add something to
Oh,
the
this
stage.
is cool.
Yeah. Okay. So when I do cabin consultations, one of the things I use most is this visual. We're going to do a whole podcast episode on it. But I think
Mhm,
when people think about occupancy and filling their calendars, they think about, oh, I need to be huge on Instagram, or, oh, I need to have these big influencers come, right? Which is obviously top of the funnel, find, follow. How do people find you? And
mhm,
when I'm in, but a lot of people don't like social media or marketing. So the
mhm.
push I like to give people is that I don't think it has to be top of the funnel to fill your calendar. I actually think you can pick which of these is most fun to you to think about filling your calendar. So I'm just going to read them for folks who aren't watching this and are listening. But basically, this is a sales funnel, which is find, follow at the top. You need to find new people, then get them to like and trust you. Then you want them to try it, buy it. And then at the bottom is repeat and refer. What you just gave us, I think, is a brilliant piece of repeat and refer. If you show up to, it's not like that, your secret amenity is not getting anyone to buy a stay because they don't know about
Mm,
it. But it
mm-mm.
is getting them, they're delighted. They're going to post about it. They're going to tell their friends about it, and they're going to come back because of it. And so I guess I'm curious, do you have any other advice, not in the find follow, but ways that you've gotten folks to like and trust you, which then leads them to try, buy, and repeat and refer? So basically, non-traditional marketing, ways to fill your calendar that are not like paying for ads, having a reel go viral, something like that.
I mean, you spoke about it first, the influencers. First, that was a pretty good one, but also with the influencers, I would try each category of influencer. It doesn't really matter the follower count, meaning, you have a million plus, you have 100,000 to 500,000, and you have 10,000 to 100,000. So
Yep.
don't be afraid to ask any one of them to, see if they could stay at your cabin. Some of them will charge, some of them may not.
Yep.
But look at their content to see if their content matches your, you know, audience or
Yep.
your target audience, because someone could have 5 million subscribers, but they're talking about is maybe shoes, and that has no relevance with your
Yeah.
cabin.
Right.
So, but also don't be afraid of someone with millions of followers, because, you know, I didn't think that. I was like, we're so small. Who's, a million followers would ever reach back out to us? So I initially reached out to Chelsea Kawai. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's like
Mhm.
a brand ambassador for Canon. So we
Okay.
would follow her because we love photography. We used to shoot wedding videography, my wife and I. And so I was like, man, she's so cool. Wouldn't it be cool if she could come? And then my wife was like, there's no way, dude. We're like small fry. She's never gonna reach out. And then her assistant reached out and says, oh, she's willing to do it. Her brand packages start at, $10,000. I'm like, oh well, like there's
Worth a try.
we're not doing that. And then I said, I told the assistant, I was like, we just can't afford that. But if Chelsea wants to come, we would love to just give her a stay so she could just relax and, get away from all the hustle and bustle of LA. And then, a couple weeks comes by and she texts me directly. She says, hey, this is Chelsea. I was like, there is no way. Are you kidding me? She goes, I would love to stay. You don't have to pay the thing. Your place looks awesome. The only thing I ask is, can I shoot something there for a brand? I'm like, yeah, this is fine. I was like, and then I'll just freely post stories and I'll give you some stuff. Would that be cool? And I'm like, that would be way cool.
Yeah.
And
That's
so we
exactly what
met.
we want, actually.
Yeah. And then she gave us so much good content, and she shot a Hyundai commercial there. So that was cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
so
that's the
don't be
find
afraid to go
follow,
up.
'cause right, because she put you, someone with that kind of audience puts you in front of a lot of new folks. That helps people to find you and then start
Mhm.
following you independently. What about lower down in the funnel? Once you have someone following you, What do you do either on social media or in your Airbnb listing to build that like and the trust to help convince them that this is the place they want to stay?
Man, that's a good question. So I always look at like conversion percentages on Airbnb. So I always look at the first part is the impressions. So you definitely need to have your title on point so that you're searchable. And then your hero photo is really important. I always look at it has to be really compelling with regards to the color contrast as well. I know that that seems a little bit more geeky now, but
No, wait, tell us about that.
yeah, so in movies or whenever we shoot, color contrast is a big thing. So um, have you ever heard of teal and orange?
Hmm.
Yeah, so a lot of people would edit in teal and orange. Uh, there was a famous guy, I forgot his name now, but he was a very famous like viral YouTuber or whatever. And so then I wanted to apply the same thing for Airbnb searches. So when there's a search, I wanted to have a great color contrast against my competition,
Ah,
right?
interesting.
So yeah, so I everyone is white and bright.
Yep.
So I edit differently. So I edit warmer.
Yeah.
So
So
then
it
when you
stands out.
see so when you see all these like search results, everyone looks whenever they say white, it's more like cold and blue. So
Yep.
cold
Yep.
and blue and white and bright and wide. And it's usually at an angle or their living room. So I was like, well, I'm gonna put my front photo and I'm gonna compress it so it looks, you know, very grand, like it doesn't feel distorted. And I'm gonna edit mine a little warmer than everyone else's. And that's helped us with a lot of conversions on that. And then obviously your first five, and then a lot of your captions. And then, you know,
Wait,
really
when you say a lot of your
marketing.
captions, what might people need to be doing there that they're not doing?
You should definitely caption every single photo.
Okay.
And wherever you can, slip in something that is searchable,
There you go.
right?
Yep.
Putting in like running springs or putting in California or just anything that is a bigger word. Oh, this is however many minutes from Big Bear.
Yep.
Even brands, like we took a photo of our fridge and we put Smeg in the caption. We put Smeg, so
Yep.
Smeg is now searchable. We actually got a lead from Pinterest, which is hilarious. So because they were searching for the Smeg fridge and they saw ours and were like, "Oh, you're local. We'd love to stay." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, definitely, you could do it." Um,
Which is
and
same
then
for social media. People don't often think about that. Now it's harder with reels, but when we are posting photos, and even when you do, you can tag. If you have a Smeg fridge,
yeah,
every time you post a photo with it, tag Smeg in it. Tag whoever made your couch, tag who makes your
yep.
linens. They see that and repost it, and that really helps with the find and follow. Just to like maximize, if you don't want to post that much, when you do post, make sure you're maximizing the reach of those posts.
That was actually one of the reasons why we bought brand bigger brand fridge rather than a
Smart.
a regular bridge. I was like,
Yeah.
"Can we tag them?" And that's what
Yeah.
happened with Polly and Bark, actually. So we tagged Polly and Bark so much, they featured us so much, so they just reached out and they wanna do a collaboration where they're gonna send us furniture,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is
Same
so
thing happened
cool.
with us for Messiah. They're the rocking
Okay.
chair in our place that's really and I bought it because I loved it. But then I
Yeah.
tagged the shit out of them because I love it. I want people to know. They ask all the time, so I want them to know where we
Mhm.
got it, and we've done 2 giveaways with them now where some of our past guests have won that same chair for their house, and it all just came from a tag, probably not just one tag, but every time I posted it, I tagged it.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah,
think people
exactly.
underestimate. It doesn't matter if you have a couple 100 followers, like, tag them, why not?
Yeah, yeah, and to finish your question, the most of the try I think we just try to post on all the our listing on all of the OTAs. I think not
Yeah.
a lot of people are afraid of Booking.com. A lot of people are afraid of Expedia. They don't know about Google and they don't know about the hourly stuff, which is like Gigster or Peerspace.
Those are my next questions. I'm actually a filmmaker, so we use Gigster a
Oh,
lot.
okay.
And one of our recent shoot locations we found on there, and he does Airbnb and Gigster. And I was asking him some of these questions because I have struggled to think about how that works with our business model because we're at pretty consistently 95 to 100% occupancy throughout the year at Cozy Rock. If we
Mhm.
do a Gigster, it's daytime hours and then you lose the night. So like how do you make that work logistically, mixing daytime rentals with folks who want overnight rentals?
Well, I just have to compare it, so we charge $200 an hour.
Oh, so
So
it's just that
if
much more. It doesn't matter if you lose the night.
if I lose the night, maybe it's a high season $400 a night. I got that in 6 hours. So
Yeah.
even if I lose the night, it doesn't matter. And even more so, it's a rarity for me to get that high on a weekday. And most shoots I always schedule between Monday and for
Yeah.
Thursday.
Right. Cause that's when, as a filmmaker, I try to avoid weekend shoots as much as I can. I would prefer
Right.
to do it Monday through Friday. So that works
Yeah. So
better
I would
for me.
rather fill my weekdays
Mm,
with shoots rather than, bookings anyway. So I don't
yeah.
have to discount it.
How do you sync those calendars?
So I just sync it with my HostAway. So I use HostAway for my
Okay.
PMS,
So do I.
and I just put the calendar from there, and just sync them with each other, the iCal.
It's a very selfish takeaway, but I think I might list us on Gigster sometime this week.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I haven't gotten any in the Smoky Mountains as much as California or Louisville, actually.
That makes sense.
So I think it just depends on the market, but it doesn't hurt. My
Right.
thought is everyone says, "Oh, why I don't need to post it on there. Nobody's gonna ever find me." It's not about that. It's about having your same first five and same title now all over Google because now you're in
Oh,
another place and your SEO goes up higher.
I did not think about that part of it, which explains why if you're putting them on all of the platforms, it's improving that across the board,
It's
even
gonna
if you never
improve that.
book.
Even if you never book, you're on Gigster, you're on Peerspace, you're on Google, you're on Expedia, you're on Booking.com, you're on Verbo, you're on Airbnb, and now you have your direct booking website. That's 8. I'm just
Right,
counting. And
right,
then actually when you're on Expedia or Booking.com, it puts it on hotels.com.
right.
So and a bunch of these other ones. So you're
Yeah.
just always on Google. And that has helped a lot actually with our Gatlinburg cabin. It gets a lot of direct Google bookings.
So I'm not on Google either, or like, where do you even list it on Google? Do you just set it up as a business?
No, in Hostaway, there's a Google vacation rentals
What? See, I have not
position.
maximized my host away. I find
Yeah.
that so intimidating and overwhelming that I got it set up and running only within the last year and then have not
Oh.
maximized it in the way that
Yeah,
I
you just click publish and it'll mirror your direct booking website. That's it.
okay. This is amazing. This is why I feel so impressed and intimidated by folks who have 8 properties because I have 3 short-term rentals and 1 long-term rental and just feel like I can't even stay on top of my host way. And part of that is I run another business full time, but it
See,
just
there you
there's a
go.
lot there, right? And it's hard to stay on top of all of it and do them all well without having property managers, but I have not had
Mhm.
good luck with property managers. So
I
I just
haven't
have
had good luck either.
yeah, so I just have a lot of respect for people who can do all of that and do it well. Are you full-time at the business as well? Are both you and your wife full-time doing this now? Or are you
Mhm.
still a loan officer?
I'm still a loan officer.
Okay. Is that full-time or
Well,
just part-time?
I guess my full time is loan officer and developer, and my wife is full time at management, and I'm part time management.
Okay.
Because now we're trying to stay in the development because I feel like that's the future, which
Yeah.
is we raise money, we acquire land, and we build and sell.
Yeah. Okay, so once you build them, you're not holding on to them, you're selling them.
It depends on which asset, but typically, yes, we want to sell them.
Okay. What is your vision for the development piece of it? Like, do you have a niche for what kinds of things you wanna develop and why?
Yes. We want to essentially build our ultimate like short-term rental in our eyes, which
Okay.
is, um, it'll be an A-frame with the everything that we learned from the Smokies, which
Mhm.
is adding a game room. We want it to have views, mid-century, black outside, cedar accents, and then we want to add again from the Smokies indoor pool. Every single one will have a pool from this
Yeah.
point on.
Okay. But then immediately sell them. As soon as it's done, you don't even rent it for a year to get a rental history and sell it as turnkey. It's just sell it as new build for anyone who wants to get into the short-term rental world.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's my goal. But if there is a property that is really compelling for us to keep, then we will keep it. Um, but so there, have you heard of Live Oak Lake?
Yes. We interviewed
Yeah.
him last year. Was it? Oh, I can't keep track of time. But yes, yes, we talked with Isaac. He's great.
Yeah, so Isaac was talking about the full cycle of an investment, and when I
Mhm.
heard him say that, that was, like, don't be afraid to sell it once you're done. But obviously, he operated it first for a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, I'd love to at some point build a community like that, like a,
Yeah.
a big development. And I feel like I can't get there unless I build these smaller ones and then sell it and save capital, raise capital, and
Okay.
be able to build. That's my ultimate vision, because it
Okay.
was either build these small cabins or hotel,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and there's kind of this like Venn diagram crossover now between the cabin world, which used to be just one cabin at a time. More people are thinking like Isaac, how do I build like a micro hotel? And then some
Yes.
people are even going from that to like, how do I build a boutique motel or like
Mhm.
getting into the hotel space with a very modern twist on it that makes it a little bit more exciting than your classic motel or hotel, I feel like.
Right. The micro hotel is our ultimate goal. Like, I would empty out all of our portfolio to just have that one and I'll run it, because my thought is, not only do I want it to be a micro hotel, but I also want it to be a wedding venue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have experience in weddings. I used to shoot weddings too. And I feel like being there as a filmmaker, you observe so much. You know what
Yeah.
couples are looking for by seeing these beautiful locations. You know exactly what kind of prep room you want for the bride and the groom instead
That's
of the
right.
crappy groom prep room that you always get, right? Like you have the
That's right.
vision to be able to do it really well.
Because you need it to look good for filmmakers
That's
and
right.
photographers and things like that. So, that was my dream, because then I know I've been to so many, I've shot so many places, and I've seen where we went to shoot first looks and, groom prep and bride prep. And if I know what the best of these look like, how can we get that done here? We definitely
Yeah.
want soft light. We want to be able to have huge windows, and we want a lot of greenery, and
Hmm.
anything we can do to enhance that. So
Yeah.
that would be the visionary in me looking far ahead, that I
That's
would
the
love
dream.
to have that. Yeah.
Okay. We'll keep an eye on you. I have one last question before we wrap up. And this is I'll be interested to hear your perspective because you do have a collection of them. But when you think about what makes a cabin, what are the defining characteristics?
Man, that's tough. I think you have to have some sort of wood element, the warmth, whether it's the tongue and groove in the ceiling or on the walls. Yeah, I used to be so against it. I was like, oh, this is so old. But I feel like it has to be. It was because it was older, and I didn't see how it could have been done. Because if you look back at Lightfoot, I really wanted to paint all of it white, but I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
And we just only painted the kitchen white.
Yeah.
Keeping the cedar tongue and groove is what makes it so special,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you don't want to lose that. And it's
Oh,
kind of like, oh, do you want chocolate milk or do you want hot chocolate?
yeah.
Hot chocolate's so much more warm. Not that chocolate milk, there's anything wrong with that, but there's some sort of romantic um thing with hot chocolate. And,
Yeah.
and that goes with probably my final message, is that cabins are supposed to be experiences. Everything that you can do in a cabin, you could probably do at home as well. Like, you can make coffee from a Keurig instantly, or you could buy it from Starbucks. You could listen to music just on your phone, looking on the internet. Yes, I get all that. But if you go to a cabin, you're being intentional with your time. You're going to another house,
Yeah.
but you're there to experience the house and everything that it offers. So that when
Mhm.
you make coffee, you're probably going to make pour over coffee.
Yes.
Yes, it takes a little bit more time, but it's so ethereal. There's something
Yes.
about it that makes it feel like, okay, now I'm going to take this coffee. I'm going to be intentional to be on the deck and listen to the birds and
Yes.
the trees as they sway while I sip my coffee slowly this morning.
Yes.
And then later, after dinner or something, I want to go dance with my wife. And instead of playing it on my phone, I'm going to put on a record,
Yes.
and you're going to feel the scratch
Yes.
and all of that, and so that's what makes a cabin special, along with the physical characteristics. But what makes it special is the experiences you have in them,
That's right.
and the experiences that the host created for you. And that's why to us that secret amenity was so special, that we don't just say, oh, it's a secret, that's it. We actually put together a treasure hunt. So when they arrive, their adventure starts right away.
Yeah.
And they didn't even know that they had a treasure hunt or a secret amenity,
Yeah.
Because you
It
have
sets the tone.
it sets the tone,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Chase, thank you so much for taking this time with me.
You're welcome. No, thank you for reaching out. I was like, wow, someone thinks I'm special enough to be on their podcast. Woo, that's cool.
Yeah, it was great to chat with you. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you liked what you heard, feel free to leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify or share some of your favorite parts over on Apple Podcast. If you have feedback or suggestions for the future, you can also find me on Instagram at Cozy Rock Cabin. Looking forward to next week.